It's now only 21 days until Americans vote in the 2018 midterm elections.
It's 21 days until the election.
Things are getting intense.
Things are really heating up.
This is the time at which people who don't care about politics begin to pay attention.
The lesson from last week?
We already forgot what happened last week.
My advice for candidates in these last few days before the election is to not get distracted by shiny objects.
My advice to candidates is to talk to voters face to face every day.
What does it mean if the United States continue as it is? What will change mean? And the effectiveness of those two messages will shape the American future and the future of every country on earth that cares about what happens in the United States.
I'm Patti Doyle. I'm a Democratic strategist.
I'm Chabria, and I work for Ohio Governor John Kasich.
I'm Stefanie Brown-James, and I used to run Black voter outreach for President Obama.
My name is David Frum. I'm an editor at The Atlantic. I have been involved with American politics almost all of my life.
It is 3 weeks to go until America votes, so here's a reminder of where things stand. Right now, Republicans control both the House and the Senate, but that could change. Not sure it will. In the House of Representatives, all 435 seats are up for re-election. 219, remember that. That's the magic number for a majority. The Republicans currently hold 236 seats, but the Democrats are so hoping to make gains. And then there is the Senate. With 100 seats, it's very close right now. Republicans currently hold 51, Democrats 49. In this race, 35 seats are up for grabs, but most of those are currently held by Democrats. So this is going to be hard. They have to keep all of them. Won't be easy. Plus, they then have to pick up 2 more. Republicans just need to hang on to what they have. So we're now halfway through the campaign. Here is one latest projection on which way this could go. According to 538, which basically aggregates polls, the Democrats are poised to take back the House. They have maybe 6 and 7 chance of doing so. The Senate, that's a different story, though. Republicans are likely to hold their power there with a 4 and 5 chance. So our panel joins us now. Great to see you all. And before we, launch into it with sleeves rolled up about the polls and the issues, I kind of feel like we need to deal with the elephant in the room, and that's not the GOP. We hear a lot from people saying, why are you spending so much time talking about American politics, sort of suggesting this is rubbernecking. But when they say that, what are they missing, David?
What they're overlooking is that in this age of Trump, the global order that we've all taken for granted and that Canadians especially benefit from is coming apart. It's not enough for Canadians just to worry whether NAFTA, the trade deal between the United States and Canada, is secure. Canada has an investment in making sure that trade deals across the world are secure. And yet Donald Trump has launched these trade wars against the planet. So this is a world in which America is the center, and when America comes apart, the world comes apart.
Stefanie, do you see anything else flowing north, as it were, from these midterms?
Yes, interesting. I think about the relationship between Canada and the U.S. like me and my husband in the bed. And I mean that to say that if he moves or snores or does anything, I feel it. At the end of the day, the U.S. is still the largest economy in the world. What happens with regards to trade definitely impacts Canadians when it comes to technology or agriculture or innovation. What happens in the States policy-wise is going to impact Canadians all across the area. So I think it remains important that Canadians pay a special attention to what happens in this midterm elections, because the change in Congress could mean real changes in policies that will impact all Canadians.
Well, I certainly know that's why people are watching the House race, because that's where so much policy gets discussed. We talked about polls, but there's always a bit of hesitation to bring them up as markers of where we stand. I just don't know how to feel about polls anymore. Jay, do you think that hesitation is warranted?
Well, there's no doubt polling is broken in America and probably around the world as well, too. But what I would say is this: the way in which the media portrays polls is very different than the way political professionals use them. The media uses polls to say, this is a horse race, this is a parlor game, this is who's leading every day. We that do political campaigns every day, we look at it to see how are messages being moving voters and how are we going to actually get a coalition to victory. So from that perspective, there's still a big value in polling, but from the media perspective, it's probably not as valuable as it once was.
But as the members of the public, we don't have access to all that intel. So, I mean, Patti, is there anything that people can look at instead of polls as a marker?
Yeah, I agree with Jay that if 2016 taught us anything is that polls cannot predict who's going to win, as everyone thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. I think what's a stronger indicator is where the national parties are putting their resources this close to the election. Money is running out, and so they really need to figure out which races are close enough that their additional resources can make an impact, and which races are so far gone that they're going to pull out resources. So I think, the public and viewers need to really look at where their national parties are putting the money, because that's what counts.
Okay, so if we take that theory and look at where the money's going, what is this telling us right now about who these parties are really going after? So who's the prize voter right now, David?
Well, this is sort of a race between well-educated women who are the most anti-Trump group in the electorate, and the question is, can they be mobilized, versus down-market men, who are the most down-market white men, who are the most pro-Trump group in the electorate. Can they be mobilized? With the down-market white men, you have the advantage that a lot of them are older, and older people have a higher propensity to vote. I think one of the big drags on Democratic hopes is that they have always attached a lot of significance to raising Latino turnout, people from the Spanish-speaking world, Mexico especially, but other countries too, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, which is a territory of the United States. And Latino enthusiasm seems low in this cycle. At least Latino willingness to come out and vote seems low. So that holds the Democrats back. But the incidents today where Donald Trump was on Twitter again insulting a woman, I don't know that you can raise women's disgust with President Trump past 10, but like Spinal Tap, he's taking it to 11.
Stephanie, do you buy that argument about Latino voters?
Not so much. I mean, I definitely have seen a large number of Latino voters and black voters especially who are very much enthused about this year's midterm elections, but we cannot overlook the millennial voters who are poised to overtake baby boomers as the largest voting bloc in the country. And as we saw with Taylor Swift, who finally got vocal about politics, where over 60,000 voter registrations came from really an Instagram post, and I'm assuming most of those were millennials who registered to vote because Taylor Swift basically said so. That to me is one social poll that really signifies that millennials are enthused. We know that they typically don't vote at high numbers during the midterm elections, but I think that with so many issues coming to head, talking about the economy, talking about healthcare, I think we will continue to see millennials come out in full force, not just during early vote, but really on election day too.
I don't know, you mentioned Taylor Swift, and I'm thinking about celebrity endorsements. I mean, if that actually worked, Patti, wouldn't Hillary Clinton be president now?
Yeah, I've never been a big believer in entertainers as endorsers. I think most people look as entertainers to actually entertain them and not to tell them how to think politically. And you're absolutely right. Hillary had every major celebrity endorse her, from Beyonce to George Clooney, and she lost. But what I do think is entertainers can be very good at rallying up your base and making sure the vote gets out. Put a celebrity in front of a bunch of door knockers and volunteers who really want to who are going to go out there and get your vote out. That's the best way to use your celebrity endorsers. I don't put a lot of stock in Kanye West going to the Oval Office, or Beyonce doing a concert for a candidate.
Okay, so the last time we were all together, gang, you were all buried in your phones because the New York Times had dropped its behemoth of a story alleging tax fraud in the Trump family. And unless I'm wrong, you all thought this would be a huge deal. And then he had one of his strongest weeks in ages, even a bump in the approval rating. So, Jay, what's happening here? Is this a failure of Democrats to capitalize on that, or maybe it doesn't matter?
Well, I think Democrats have no idea how to react to the Trump presidency, and I think there's a lot of regular people who have no idea how to react, because every day, every second, there's something else that happens, and it fills our imagination of what's going to be next. So is it a failure of the Democrats? Yeah, probably, but the reality is the president has the bully pulpit, the president has the media completely controlled, and he's got Twitter. So he controls everything in terms of the way in which information is dispersed to the electorate. So I don't even know how you break through in this, but a story like the New York Times one, which is super long and super complicated, it's really hard to get any traction, and a lot of it is baked into the electorate already.
David, you were all over that story last time we
Yeah,
spoke.
I still think it's hugely important. I also think we need a realistic psychological model of how you lose in a country of 330 million people. I mean, it doesn't happen that your core vote smacks their foreheads and say, boy, do I feel like an idiot now. I am so sorry. Where do I send my letter of apology? You lose by fraying at the margins. So that story about Donald Trump's tax evasion, probably by means that were illegal, has been followed by another story, pretty conclusively documenting that his son-in-law and chief foreign policy advisor, Jared Kushner, has, without breaking the law, probably paid no taxes in a decade, which is followed in turn by a story about this murder in Saudi consulate in Istanbul. And there are important business connections linking the Saudis, Trump, and Kushner. I think it's also connected to this, which is we are on the verge now. We've just had an announcement of the size of the new deficit numbers. The United States is well on its way, in the middle of prosperity, to $1 trillion deficit, which means Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, said today that if the Republicans hold, on the agenda is going to be reductions in spending for Social Security and Medicare. And that is, so one of the things that I think a lot of people, not the core Trump vote, but the weak Trump vote, is thinking, wait a minute, they had this tax cut. I didn't get much out of it. Donald Trump never paid much tax. His son-in-law pays no tax. I'm now about to have my Social Security and Medicare under pressure, and all of this is somehow linked to shady, maybe even criminal, maybe even murderous goings-on in the outside world. It comes together in a story, and it is the story that sinks you. Not all at once, not with your core vote, but with the voters whose loss means defeat.
Okay, well, unfortunately, time is always tyrannical. Not surprisingly, there's a lot more to say. We're going to have to leave it there, but we will, of course, be talking again in a couple weeks as we watch all of this unfold. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.